On this episode of Still Loading...
Driving, shooting, and of course zapping. It's one swamp-stomping adventure.
The Adventures of Bayou Billy for Nintendo.
It all starts when I get out this here swamp. You really get me riled now.
Hey guys, it's Josh and welcome to this new episode of Still Loading. For this week's episode, I'm covering the game The Adventures of Bayou Billy for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Once again, continuing on with the 40 for 40 series of these 40 NES games. We're just about at the halfway point actually. At the shelf that I'm looking at right now, there's only two of them and we finished one of them. So we're right around the halfway point. There's a couple other games on the shelf that I didn't include in this because either they weren't included in the box of games I bought, or it's something that I just didn't really want to cover. In any case, this week's episode we're covering, like I said, The Adventures of Bayou Billy. And before I go on with that, I just want to wish you all a Happy New Year. This is coming out on New Year's Eve, so I hope you all have an excellent time. If whatever your festivities you may be enjoying or partaking in, enjoy yourselves, whether it's chilling at home and enjoying a quiet night, or maybe you're going out with some friends and having a good time. Either way, have an excellent new year. I'll probably give another little sign off at the end, but I know me, I forget things, so I wanted to cover it early on instead of later. In any case, let's get into Bayou Billy. And as we do with every episode, let's talk about the box art for the game. The box art in this one, it has a lot going on. In all honesty, it kind of looks like a Crocodile Dundee ripoff. I mean, it's pretty clear that's what they're going for with it, but you can see The Adventures of Bayou Billy, and it has a picture of a Paul Hogan wannabe, doesn't have a neck and has a lot of muscles for some reason, and then it's got big knife in his hand. He's got a Jeep at the bottom, a crocodile like growling under the very bottom of the box, and then the girl over on the right being held by some bad guy with a giant cigar, and then there's a snake at the top. In all honesty, I actually kind of like this box art. It's a Konami game, so it kind of has that whole, like what Konami typically did on the NES, where they had, like, silver lines on the outside and it kind of turns into the image. But what I like about this one is that it's not just that. They have a lot of things over top of that, a lot of images pasted on top of those silver lines in that silver frame. So it still has that classic Konami box art, but it's got a little bit new twist on it. On the back of the box, it says, "You're a raging Cajun You're a raging Cajun on the tail of a swamp rat." If that doesn't get kids to buy a game, I don't know what will. But so what it says on the back here is, for the first time ever, 3 of the most awesome action video experiences explode into one mean swamp stomping adventure. From zapping mobsters and wrestling gators in muddy marshes to chasing through the streets of New Orleans, driving and shooting in your road-hugging 4-wheel drive doom machine, you're up against it all. 'Cause that gangster king of Bourbon Street has snatched your best girl. I don't know why they even do that. I gotta read that again, I'm sorry. 'Cause that gangster king of Bourbon Street has snatched your best girl, pretty little Annabelle, the sweetest honey around, and run her off to his heavily armed estate, a plantation filled with perils and pitfalls. So muster up courage and sharpen your foot-long blade. It's time to go hunting. But if you ain't careful, the prey will eat you alive. I guarantee. Oh, I guarantee. It's sorry, it's just didn't really work out though. It's I guarantee. I guarantee. For one player only. In any case, and they're not lying with all the different types of gameplay styles in it. That's the one thing that's kind of unique about this game. They really combine a lot of different things all into one game. They have a beat 'em up segment to start off the game. Once you beat that, then it has a shoot 'em up segment, and then you also have driving segments. They kind of combine a lot of different gameplay styles all into one. And the whole purpose of it is you're playing as Billy trying to rescue his girlfriend Annabelle. And that's the plot. There's not much more to it. The gameplay itself is alright. The biggest issue, honestly, is its difficulty. This game is notoriously difficult. And for those who don't know, this is an interesting little tidbit, and I wanted to talk about this when I, started this episode. This is one of those games where, back in the late 80s, early 90s, the rental market exploded in the US. And, you could rent movies and that kind of thing, of course. But you could also rent games, as we know. And because of this, Nintendo didn't really like that. You couldn't rent games in Japan. It was illegal to. Which is it's so strange because we're so used to it here in the US where that was such a common practice. But no, you couldn't do it. And so to combat that in the US, because Nintendo didn't want it, they thought they were losing money on this because people would just rent the game instead of buying it. So what did they do for a lot of US releases? They amped up the difficulty, made it so much harder than it actually needed to be. And as a result, it actually probably ended up hurting the sales because no one would want to buy a game that they couldn't beat or didn't feel accomplished on during the when they rented it. And just so some of the differences between the Japanese and American versions, first off, the Japanese version was called Mad City, and obviously the US is called The Adventures of Bayou Billy. There's not a lot of differences I'm going to talk about, but enemies are more aggressive in the American version and they take more damage. So that's the majority of the difficulty increase. But there are some other interesting things that they did that were a little bit different. For example, in the driving segments in the Japanese version, the roads were wider. US, it was narrower, so you could drive off the road and lose that way. Also, in the driving segments, there was just trees on the side, which you could just run over. In the US version, there was these posts, so if you hit them, you were also dead. And finally, the biggest FU to the American audience, in the Japanese version of the driving segments, you could actually take a hit. You could get hit a couple times and still complete the level. In the US version, it's one and done. As soon as you got hit, that's it. Game's over. So they increased the difficulty for this to kind of combat the rental market, but in all honesty, it hurt the game. It didn't sell as well as some of its others because no one, like I said before, no one wants to buy a game that they don't enjoy, that they suck at, that they don't enjoy. But that's pretty much it for the gameplay. It's pretty standard. You run around, you beat some guys up, then you use the light gun, you shoot some guys, and then you drive. The final boss of the game, though, is interesting. I forget the final boss, and actually, hold on, I have the manual right here. So, there's a bunch of different stages. Pretty much the final stage of the game, though, you end up playing on or fighting the villain in his plantation home in Louisiana. So the name has the hero and heroine. Doesn't really have the name of the villain. Just says the perilous plantation parlor is the final level. Let me see if it tells you in the story. But there we go. Suddenly, I know this is great. Okay, so the villain's name is Gordon. So this is actually from the manual. It's a lot of text. I don't know how much I'm going to read of this, but this is what it says. How far will you go for the girl of your dreams? A long black cottonmouth quietly snakes across the porch of your bayou bungalow, his moist back shining in the moonlight. But you pay no mind to your visitor. You're too lost in love after walking your best girl, Annabelle, the sweetest honey this side of a bee's nest. Man, these writers, I'm telling you. After you walk Annabelle, after walking your best girl, Annabelle, home from the Jambalaya Jamboree. Wow, they are really piling on this Cajun stuff and Louisiana junk. Where the Jambalaya Jamboree, where you romantically bobbed for crawdads and shared a bowl of filet gumbo. You're also satisfied from smashing Gordon's, the gangster of Bourbon Street, Gordon's red beans in the rice warehouse, the fabled headquarters of a global smuggling network. What kind of a transition is that? You are literally talking about having a nice date with your girlfriend, only to then talk about how you broke into some gangster's warehouse and destroyed all his stock. And then, alright, suddenly a speeding limo peels across your moss-infested lawn. Bullets strafe your gutters, scaring birds from their roosts and driving you to the ground. When the smoke clears, you see a rock beside you with your head beside your head with a note attached. It reads, "Dear Mr. Bayou, Mr. M-I-S-T-A, Dear Mr. Bayou Billy, because of your meddling in my livelihood, I'm not even going to try to do accents. In case you haven't been able to tell, can't do them. I've taken measures to end your hankering for bravery. Your cherished Annabelle is holed up here on my plantation. Unless you stop messing with my business, she ain't never gonna grace your neck of the swamp again. Threateningly yours, Gordo." You crumple the note and holler like a riled gator. Fire dances in your eyes and sweat beads on your hands and forehead. You reach for your foot-long blade, knowing what you must do. That's something, let me tell you. So, Gordo, or Gordon, like Gordo from Lizzie McGuire, but no, Gordon steals your girl and you have to go rescue her. That was one of the craziest things I've read in a manual in a long while. That was pretty awesome. I would totally just share that with other people. Be like, look at this. Look how ridiculous this is written. And in any case, neither here nor there. The final boss you fight is Gordo, or Gordon, on his plantation. And he's just another beat 'em up. And then the surprise fight is that you fight his two bodyguards. I think I was watching a video review on it after trying to do some research, and it was like Rocco and Rocky or something like that was the bodyguards' names, the two of them. But they looked like cyborg ninjas. It was really weird. And once again, difficulty spike. In the Japanese version, they're just normal bosses. In the American version, they pump up the amount of hits these guys can take, and so it makes the final boss that much more difficult. So if you actually happen to beat this as a kid or as an adult or whatever, you really feel like you did a number on it. Like, you feel accomplished, because it's a tough freaking game. But that's pretty much it for the gameplay. The music, on the other hand, is fantastic. Like I said, the gameplay I wasn't too crazy about, but the music I found myself listening to a lot. It's really catchy. It's kind of got like this kind of funk kind of feel to it. I don't know how to describe it. It's got a really good beat to it. It's got a really good it drives. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I'll put something in right here. It's a really good soundtrack, and all the music is pretty fantastic, if I do say so myself. Drives really well, and then it fits the levels, it fits the mood of each level. I definitely suggest giving it a listen. As for the graphics, not too bad. They're pretty good NES graphics, I won't lie. They have some, it's a little muddy at times, so it's a little hard to see every now and then, but your character sticks out well enough that you don't ever really lose track of him. So yeah, it's overall a pretty fun game to try out and try out and play. It's tough as hell. Like, if you're looking for just something to pop in and be like, oh, I can figure this out. Yeah, you'll figure it out, but you're not going to beat it. It's a tough freaking game. If you're one of those people who just popped it in and beat it on your first try without any prior experience to it, I hate you. Just so you know, I hate you. But no, it's a considered not a classic, but it is a fairly well-known NES title, so definitely give it a try, just for the sake of novelty. The fact that it literally uses every type of gameplay, almost every type of gameplay, but 3 different kinds of gameplay, all within one game. So yeah, that is about it. There's not much more to it. Once again, thank you all for listening. It's Happy New Year. It's like I said, it's going to be coming out. This is going to be coming out, on New Year's Eve. So thank you once again for listening. Thank you for those who have been listening all year and continue to support me. Shout outs to Two Guys in a Game as usual. Once again, they're awesome friends. I'm enjoying talking to them, and it's great to meet some other gamer podcasts. Also, shout out to one of the hosts of Two Guys in a Game, TJ Hodder, for The Hodder Show. That show's also pretty awesome. I've been listening to his podcast now for a couple episodes, so about the last month or so, and really been enjoying it. I also want to shout out Drinks with Larry. They've been really nice and promoting me on social media, and that's really awesome of them. I have unfortunately not had a chance to listen to their podcast yet, so I promise, guys, I will listen to it. But seriously, thank you so much, and I'm going to make sure that I repay the favor in any way that I can. So, once again, thank you all for everyone to listen. Happy New Year. Have a great, good luck in the next year. I wish all of you luck and blessings and whatever else that you guys need to get through. Just have a good one, guys. And once again, please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to get the show out there more. You can follow me on social media at StillLoadingPod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And that pretty much wraps it up. So thank you again, and I will see you all next time.